Guys, Barcelona have just secured a second successive victory in 3 days, but this time it was owing to a dramatic change in tactic from Hansi Flick that turned out to be extremely effective on the night. But before we break it all down, let's look at how both teams lined up on the night. Now, quite interestingly, both managers actually went for a similar 4-2-3-1 formation. Barcelona started with the same defensive outlook as they did on the weekend against Girona. Pedri, Casado, Lamine Yamal and Marcus Rashford all maintained their spots in the starting lineup. However, it was the inclusion of Fermin López and Pedro Fernandes that made the tactical difference on the night. What do I mean? So recently, Hansi Flick has come under a lot of criticism about his tactics and how the players were starting to suffer from fatigue. We've looked shaky in defense, particularly because we've been lacking the intensity to press high up the pitch. So with the introduction of Fermin and Dro, Hansi Flick was able to inject some much needed energy back into the team. This was the perfect antidote to Olympiacos' high pressing because within just 6 minutes of the start, it paid off. And we are going to talk about this man right here in a bit, but let's start with the opening goal. Look at the sequence of play before the goal. It starts with Olympiacos pressing so high up the pitch, but something was different this time. We had an outlet in defense because instead of Gerard Martin, who teams like to target, tonight we had Balde. And so once that ball gets over to Balde, he does what he's so great at doing, and we've seen him do this time and time again. He beats his man easily, driving up with pace. Look. Now this is where Fermin is important because he offers a link between midfield and attack. Something Dani Olmo has failed to do consistently this season, and it was the combined individual brilliance, first from Lamine Yamal and then finally from Fermin López, that completely destroys the defense. But it all starts with the breakaway from the high press thanks to Balde. But guys, it didn't stop there. Olympiacos continued to press high up the pitch, trying to catch Barcelona out in possession, and to be honest, they almost succeeded, trying to catch Szczęsny out on a number of occasions, which made me realize the surprise tactic that Flick had on the night. Now, who noticed that Barcelona started going long in order to counter the high press? Yes, Hansi Flick instructed the team to start going long, and to my surprise, this was effective for 2 reasons. Number 1, we bypassed the need to engage the tiki-taka in midfield because we didn't have Frankie de Jong. There was no way we could play out the back with Casado and Fermin because these 2 players thrive on explosivity and chaos rather than control. Now, number 2, by going long, we could get the ball forward quickly, forcing Olympiacos to have to be the ones to build out from the back, allowing us to then put them under pressure and win the ball back in dangerous areas. Guys, this was magical tactics from Flick because just before halftime, we got our second goal. But let's demonstrate this. Look at Olympiacos trying to build out of the back. Who's there to intercept the pass? Pedri. This is why we love Pedri Gonzalez. He gives you everything. Passing, shooting, dribbling, and also recovery. He does the work. As soon as he intercepts that ball, Dro follows up immediately, laying the pass out to Fermin López. But look at the movement of Rashford. He drags the defender out of position, and that completely exposes the defense, leaving Fermin one-on-one against Parola. And this is the thing about football. Once you're out of position, you're on the back foot and you're vulnerable. And Fermin took full advantage with another piece of individual brilliance for his second. And from this point, guys, Barcelona were flying. However, 4 minutes into the second half, completely against the run of play, we conceded a goal. Now, it was a combination of careless defending from Eric Garcia and some bizarre decision making from VAR. Or so I thought at first, but it was eventually clarified that Podence would have been offside on this occasion if it wasn't for Eric Garcia's careless handball in the build-up. So the referee rightly awards a penalty, and Olympiacos were handed a lifeline as El Kaabi carefully dispatched his penalty off the post. But the lifeline was soon cut short because just 6 minutes later, the referee follows up with a decision that would ultimately decide the rest of the night. Heze was issued a second yellow card for a supposed arm across the face of Marc Casado. Now, did I think this booking was deserved? Certainly not. I think Casado makes a meal of this, but I want to take you back to the 23rd minute in the first half. Balde was yellow carded for exactly the same thing. That wasn't a yellow card in my opinion either. But this is the thing about refereeing and consistency, because once you set a precedent, you have to follow through. Unfortunately for Olympiacos, they paid for it on the night. And from this point, guys, the game was marred tactically. 2-1 down away to Barcelona with 10 men in the Champions League is just too high a mountain to climb. And you could tell because from that point, it was men against boys. Olympiacos had the wind completely taken out of their sails, and so they retreated completely into a forced low block. And to make things worse for them, Flick takes off Dro and brings on Frankie de Jong, essentially swapping offense for control as Frankie de Jong slotted into midfield and Fermin went over to the left side of attack. Barcelona were relentless from that point as Pedri, Rashford, Fermin López and Balde ran Olympiacos ragged. We were dragging them all across the pitch, exploiting that numerical advantage, and Olympiacos could not just keep up. It was a third, a fourth, a fifth and a sixth. But I want to highlight 3 key performances on the night, and those were from Pedri, Rashford and of course Fermin López. I mean, we already discussed the roles that they played in the second goal, but let's look at the fourth. Look at what Balde offers the team in attack. He's so important out on the left because he latches onto that loose ball and had the awareness to immediately pull that ball back for Rashford, who then finishes with power and precision. Look, he just stands on one foot, picks his spot and has the quality to find the back of the net. But that wasn't all. Guys, I keep saying that Rooney Bargi has a lot of potential, and I'm happy that Hansi Flick is starting to trust these young players and give them more minutes to prove themselves. Look at this lovely bit of skill from Rooney Bargi to beat Bruno, and even though he scoffed his shot, it falls kindly to Fermin, and for the third time on the night, this guy finishes off a chance with his weaker foot. The first Spanish player to score a hat-trick in the Champions League. Not Andres Iniesta, not Xavi Hernandez, not David Villa, guys, not even Raul Gonzalez. It's Fermin López. Remember the name. Guys, I spoke about this guy in a previous video as one of the players that gave everything on the pitch. It was there for everyone to see. This is what we've been lacking in key areas. This is Barcelona from last season. They fight you to the death, and I think we're getting back to that. Really encouraging signs going into the Clásico, I'm not going to lie. But Rashford wasn't done on the night, and neither was Pedri, because the 6th and final goal of the night was just pure beauty. Barcelona are the absolute best, winning back possession and immediately turning defense to attack. And who was at the heart of this? Of course, it's Pedri. He picks up the ball, looks up, and in a split second spots Rashford and has the quality to pick him out. But even more brilliantly, guys, look at Marcus Rashford. Before that ball gets to him, he already had a full picture of what he wanted to do. It's the first touch that brings the ball down. It had to be perfectly executed for it to work. Right on the money, he wrong foots that defender and the goalkeeper as well. They don't have enough time to recover and they're beaten at the near post. Guys, this is a man with supreme confidence. I couldn't be happier for Marcus Rashford because we all know he's been through a lot in the past year, and it's nice to see him playing once again with a smile on his face. Guys, this is exactly the performance we needed going into the Clásico, because it's not just about the scoreline, it's the confidence of some of these players who were able to pull off some brilliant performances on the night. But I want to hear all of your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of the game. Also, let me know what you thought of some of the refereeing decisions on the night. And most of all, tell me how you're feeling ahead of the Clásico on Sunday. I'll be back here with more tactical breakdowns for the Clásico, so make sure that you've got your notifications on for those. And until next time, guys, see you soon, and Visca el Barça.